here with Chief Greg Alexander from the Embassy Police Department, and we're going to discuss a few things with him. He's a candidate for sheriff here in Hampton County. So, Greg, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So we'll jump right into the questions. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, high school. Take us all the way back, high school up to now. Give us a little bit of background on your law enforcement career.
Sounds good. I am a native of Vaughnville, born and raised in Vaughnville, the son of Arts and Juliet Alexander. A lot of people tell me all the time, say, I know you from your mom. My mom used to work at BC Moore's for many years selling shoes, so a lot of folks know me from my mom at BC Moore's. Anyhow, I'm a graduate of Wade Hampton High School, class of 96. The best class that ever graduated at Wade Hampton High School. Jake will agree to that.
Coach Burks, he'll tell you.
That's right. That's right. And when I got out of school, I was raised very strict. My dad told me, said, son, either you're going to college or you're going to the military, but you're getting out of my house. So I didn't like school at the time, so I went to the military. I went to the United States Navy, and I did 3 years, the minimum I could do, active duty. And I had a goal to get into law enforcement. So I wanted to be there just enough time to turn 21 years old and get in law enforcement. So I done that, got out, and believe it or not, you find this interesting. My goal was to be a South Carolina Highway Patrol.
Not everybody can do that.
Right. That was the goal. I had the notion that if I would be a South Carolina State Trooper, when I woke up in the morning time, I can go to Greenville today. Tomorrow, I go to Somerville and work.
Yeah.
The next day, I go to Charleston. So I came home, and I came home on leave one time, and I worked with one of my friends in the embassy. And when we worked in the embassy, it was like I was a trooper. I got to do a lot of traffic stops with him, and he worked the interstate, and I absolutely fell in love with the embassy. And you can mix a little calls and stuff in with the traffic. And so while I was on terminal leave with the Navy, I was doing recruiting duty down in Beaufort. I stopped on the way to Beaufort one day to the Embassy Police Department and met this lady. Her name was Annie Mae Reeves. She said, when I walked in there in that white Navy uniform, she told Chief Hagee, when I left, she said, if you don't hire that young man in that pretty white uniform, I'm going to hire him. So that was October 28th of 2000. And he called me, and I think like the next day, told me, you got the job. So while I was still in the Navy, I got hired at the Embassy Police Department and was there for quite some time. I left, was a short stint, went to Colleton County Sheriff Department, went to Elster Police Department, and Cottesville Police Department, and got back to the embassy as quick as I could. And I've been there since 2005 and love it, absolutely love it.
Now, how long have you been the chief there?
I've been chief there since 2015.
Okay.
About six years now, I guess that is.
So while we're talking about, you as the chief, tell us some of the things that you've put in place as the chief that have improved, relations with the public in the embassy, cut down on crime, things like that. You got any programs that you've been able to put in place?
I have. We started, first off, before we went to this point, we started building a relationship with the kids in the community. We started this thing called National Night Out. We was the inaugural for the county to do National Night Out. And what that did, during the summertime, kids look forward to having something to do, and it blew up. The first year, it was a lot bigger than I thought it would be, and it blew up since then. We do it in August, I think it is, if I ain't mistaken. And I had the mayor and council come to me one time and told me, say, hey, now this National Night Out, it's starting to be bigger than the Shrimp Festival. Now you got to calm down, so. But we want to engage in the community and build that relationship, that true relationship. We always talk about bridging the gap. But what are we truly doing to bridge the gap with the community. You got to invest in them. And being in law enforcement, we got a big platform where we can reach community. If we're not using that platform, something wrong. So we started doing that, the National Night Out. Then we started having a national coffee with a cop. And we went a little further. And I went and talked to Mr. Alsing, which was the athletic director for FNL. And we had the police officers be the coaches for field day. So we started doing field day every year. And man, you talking about really engaging the kids then. They absolutely loved it. The kids would see us in Dollar General and be like, Mr. Alexander, next year, we gonna beat you next year. So we loved it. We loved it, having that relationship with them. And then we started doing about 6 years ago, we adopted 10 kids during Christmas time. And we did Christmas with the cop. We would get 10 kids from the school that the school showed us they wouldn't get what they should get. And we take them to Family Dollar, Dollar General, give them a $100 gift card, and we had blue lights and sirens going from the police department, buy them toys, and then we would go to Hardee's or McDonald's before Hardee's came about, and we'd take them to get something to eat, and they absolutely loved it. So then we started. I had this vision about 3 or 4 years ago to break the town down into 4 different zones. Zone A, B, C, and D, to get a community liaison from that zone. And I went to different pastors in each zone because, as I say, I know it got to be a church in each zone.
Right.
We got these communities meetings. We go to the church, to the fellowship hall, and we have 25, 30 people show up every month, building that relationship. I had an officer assigned to that zone, and we built the Facebook page. So if something happened in your community, you stay in that zone, y'all can start communicating with one another. Do you see that white truck spin off, shoot, whatever the case is? Before we get to the scene, we know what to start looking for. That community liaison, call that officer, hey, we see so and so and so, and it has been proven to work. We need the community a lot more than the community needs us.
Right.
Because they will see things and see that we're not going to see. So it has been a great model for your embassy, and we look forward to taking that to the county.
So, as the chief of police, of course, you've got a budget, and we talked about this a little bit off camera. You know, if you get out of budget in a municipality, there's some big issues. Your job could be on the line. So, the sheriff's office and the county in general, you know, we're going through some financial crunches and things. Tell me your plan to keep the sheriff's office in budget. What would you implement to try to make that happen?
So one thing is we got a plan is to have a comptroller. I'm gonna have a man or woman that does finances, and that's what they do. That's gonna be their sole job, is to keep us in line, checks and balances. I want them to tell me, Sheriff, that line item is gone. You have no more overtime on your line item. You got to do something else. These guys is making salary now. They got to lace their boots up, and they got to catch that shift tonight because our overtime is over budget.
Yeah, and that works out too. With kind of the next question is, how would you limit your overtime? You know, what's your plan on? Because I think a lot of, from what I've seen in the past, the sheriff's office overages, a lot of it is in overtime. So, you know, tie right into that. How do you plan to limit overtime?
One thing is that we've got a plan of, we can break the county down in 5 zones, and we can have a deputy in each zone, so we have more manpower. All right, so if somebody calls out sick, all right, we're down to 4 guys tonight. Somebody got home, or maybe the sergeant or lieutenant need to come out and catch that zone, versus only working 2 deputies for the whole 528 square miles. When you only got 2 deputies, there's no room for error. You got to call somebody else out so that deputy can't go to a domestic call by himself.
Right.
So just having more deputies on the road is going to take care of that by itself. You don't have to worry about the overtime.
Well, that ties right into the next question.
I love it.
Which is, you know, how are you going to increase manpower and cut down on response times? And I think, your zones is kind of hitting on that, but kind of elaborate a little bit on what your plan is for that.
The plan is to have these guys and gals that's not working go to work. It's easy to have your friends sitting in the office all day long and not doing no work, but under our administration, from the sheriff to the deputy we just hired last week, all hands can be working. I do it now in the embassy. It's gonna be the same model when I get to the sheriff department. It's no better system when you come to these folks' money. They expect us to work.
Right. So you're gonna be a working sheriff. You're gonna be a hands-on type of sheriff.
A working sheriff. It's time for a working sheriff.
All right. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. So we've got, we do have some gang problems and a drug problem that a lot of people don't like to talk about. So what are your thoughts on the problem? Do you think there's a problem? And if so, what do you want to do to combat it?
I think it's a huge problem. I think the problem is out of control. But with the model of we having this zone program and building into community relations, having the community talk to us and speak to us about little Johnny house got a lot of activity going on. Y'all need to check on little Johnny because they trust us.
Right.
Kind of like I told this radio station this morning. We had an isolated shooting last year in the embassy during the shrimp festival. Folks that did not live in town. I add folks that did not live in town. We was able to recover 6 firearms, which I know you understand that because you did investigations before. You understand how big that is.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
To recover 6 firearms from a shooting, I challenge any of my candidates that's running against me, tell me a story where they've recovered that many guns. Because they have not built a relationship in the community. The community trusts us in the embassy. And that's a big thing to see in a climate like we got now, where there's such a disconnect with law enforcement and the community. The community trusts us in the embassy. And they sent us videos, they sent us pictures, they handed us the surveillance cameras because they trust us in the embassy. And when you got a picture of you holding a handgun in your hand, there's not much to talk about. I need to get that gun.
Right.
But if we didn't have those kind of things and built that relationship in the embassy, we'd have been just like everybody else. So if we build that relationship in the county where we got those zone programs, and what I was explaining to you about these zone things too. What I want is if Greg Alexander live in zone 1, I want Greg Alexander to primarily work zone 1. Yes, every now and then you talk to your sergeant you work with to change atmosphere. But I want you to work in zone 1 because if you continue working in zone 1, I know that Jake Sullivan drives a burgundy truck. If a white truck in Jake yard, I want him to know, hey, Mr. Sullivan, I stopped by because there's a strange truck in your yard. Oh, I just bought the truck last week. You wouldn't know that if you were not working in that area all the time and consistent.
Well, also you got to think too, if they're working in the zone they live in, they're going to be a lot more observant. They're going to be more concerned because that actually affects them.
That's true.
So I definitely can see where that's a benefit.
That's true. They take ownership of it.
Absolutely.
Because now, when they go home, chances are they probably go to church with those folks in that area.
Right.
They go to the supermarket or Dollar General in that area.
And you know when somebody's not from that area.
That's
they
right.
don't belong there, so to speak.
That's right. That's right. Me and you, you still know how to police just because you don't do it. You can't go over to Ghana right now. You can be an effective police officer in Ghana, but if you knew the constituents in Ghana, what they drive, what they're doing, you'd be a lot more effective.
You know their routine.
That's it.
Who comes and goes.
That's it. That's it.
Who belongs to who, so to speak.
That's it. If 11 o'clock in the daytime, I was telling somebody the other day, our former mayor in the embassy, his wife drives him now. I haven't seen her drive in 20 years. And I was telling their daughter Had I seen her driving, I would have stopped her because I hadn't seen her drive in 20 years. So if you know your area, you know your people, that's out of character.
Right.
But I would have stopped her and said, hey, you okay? Why are you driving? You hadn't drove in 20 years.
Yeah.
Build that relationship, you know? And that's what we want to do. If you do that, you can stop the game problems because now you're not supposed, and I want y'all to understand this here. I want the deputy sheriffs to police. I want them to be proactive. We cannot be reactive. Reactive is not working for us. I want these deputy sheriffs to be proactive. I want them to engage in the community. Whether it's stopping, helping somebody get the groceries out the car, or if you see something suspicious, you stop it. You know, as law enforcement officers, we can stop on reason of suspicion.
Right.
We don't always have to have probable cause to do it. Just like I seen the lady driving, I had seen her drive 20 years. There was no probable cause for me to stop her. But reason of suspicion is somebody hijacking this woman, is somebody in the back seat laying down telling this woman to drive because now she hadn't driven 20-something years.
Does she have a medical issue, Alzheimer's or something?
There you go.
Like that?
There you go. Absolutely. So that's why we got to be proactive in policing, and I expect the deputy sheriffs to do that, and I will support them on that because that brings down crime.
All right, so going back to some of the drug issues and your programs in the embassy, it looks like you kind of started with the youth and the children to build those relationships. So what programs could you put in our schools here now to help with combating drug issues in the schools? Or do you even think there are drug issues in the schools?
I absolutely think so. I absolutely think so. Recently we had a gun in North District Middle School. So I think there's issues in the school system. One thing I was telling somebody last week is I think the school needs to be a hard target and not a softer target.
Don't get too far into schools yet because we got a whole section on that.
Okay, all right.
But let's just talk about right now just the drug issue in schools.
One thing.
Programs.
Gotcha.
What can we do on the education side to prevent the drug use?
Absolutely. One thing we can do is what we do in the embassy is the DARE program. I'm proud to say in the embassy we have the only certified DARE officer in Hampton County. It takes dedication. I had to dedicate that man to go to training for about a month to get it done, but I know there's a need for it.
Yeah, I remember DARE at Brunson Elementary when I was, third grade, probably on up. We had a DARE officer.
That's right. That's right.
It's evidently a program that works.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't still be around if it didn't.
That's right. That's right. So that's the one thing. Having a certified DARE officer in the county working.
Okay. So now let's go a little bit to how are you going to attract deputies? What are you going to do as far as retaining them when you get them? What's your thoughts on pay increases? Where do we stand compared to other counties around us?
We stand at the bottom. We stand at the bottom, and we are a training ground for other agencies, even municipalities. We're losing guys to municipalities in this county, and and I hate to say this here, but Hampton City, Yamassee, Vaughnville, Gifford, Estill, watch out, because the sheriff department will be the lead agency in this county now, and it should be. I want to start the deputies off at $45,000 a year. I want to start the deputies off at $45,000 a year, and folks look at me like I got two heads, but we can do it.
What's your plan to try to get there?
I got a plan, a solid iron plan that me and my guy that I've appointed, my chief deputy, we've wrote out, not to raise a penny in taxes, and we can do it the first year of being there, raising the salaries of the deputies $45,000 a year. I don't want to say too much because my appointments it'll be on their platform next week if I say too much. So
I understand. You do have a plan in place.
I got a plan in place.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's go to another kind of hot topic issue with sheriff deputies and police officers in general. And I know y'all were asked this at the forum the other night, but what are your thoughts on deputies driving their vehicles home, and more especially because I think my opinion on them driving them home differ from a lot of people as well, being in the occupation before, but I think more so them driving them outside of the county or when they're off duty. Tell me your thoughts on it and your plans for it.
We have a mile radius where you can drive from. If it's a 25-mile radius from the office as a crow fly, if you got a deputy that lives on the edge of the county, okay, you can drive your car to the deputy house if he allow you to, and drive your POV there. That'll help you on gas some. But if you outside the 25-mile radius, I'm sorry.
And 25 miles is just a number.
That's just a number I'm throwing out there. Right. Not concrete, not where we at yet, but
All right. So, what is your thoughts on deputies driving? I've seen them. You've probably seen them Savannah, and this is off duty now, not transporting a prisoner, not going to training, but in Savannah or Charleston or Columbia. Columbia's kind of hard because you got the academy there. But
that's right. What's
your thoughts on them driving them outside of the county when it has nothing to do with work?
That's a no-no. Okay. That's a no-no. We can't do that. Now, if you're an investigator and you had an emergency or something, you had to go to Beaufort and you talk to your supervisor because you're on call and you need to get back. That's one thing.
Yeah, you're working.
You're working. But just to go to Walmart in Pooler, Georgia, and I'm seeing a deputy sheriff car there, me and you gonna have problems.
Right, and then now talking about deputies using their vehicles, driving them home, of course, that's a benefit package.
That's right.
And it helps with readiness. I understand that being in the business. But also, when you have them off duty, some departments I work for, if you're off duty, you can go to church.
That's right.
You can go to the grocery store. You can go to the gym. You can go to these different places, but you got to wear
a soft uniform. That's right.
Whether it's a uniform or an off-duty uniform or a shirt with a collar and slacks,
that's right.
Not gym shorts and a t-shirt or
right.
something like that.
Right.
Would your plan have some? Are you going to have a policy in place that addresses all that?
Absolutely. That would be one benefit if you lived in the county.
Right.
If you live in the county, you have to have some kind of soft uniform on. We hadn't got that logistics yet. That you can drive the car if you're in the county, because that helps with crime. They see that deputy sheriff car riding through. That's our first line of defense. Is that being visual? So I like the idea of doing that, and it attracts people to move to Hampton County. I want every deputy sheriff to live in Hampton County eventually. Why? You can vote for me. I'm just kidding, but it does help. But you definitely want every deputy sheriff to live in Hampton County. And we can have you pay up. We can have you pay up, so you don't have no excuse to have to be driving your cars because I'm going to pay you.
Right.
So we look forward to it.
Okay, now let's roll into one of the big complaints you always hear, law enforcement. And again, I understand some of this where some people don't. What would you do to address complaints about deputies speeding, abusing the laws in their patrol cars? Now, I know as well as you do that not every call that you go to requires lights and sirens.
Right.
But you still have to get there quickly.
Right.
So I'm sure you're going to have some kind of policy in place. Give us an idea of what your penalties could be.
Not exactly what the penalties would be yet without looking at the current policy they got, but I can tell you we will be going to CALEA standards. That's the national standards.
Explain that a little bit.
CALEA is a national standard where the Yamasee Police Department is 80% of the process of being nationally accredited. It's a commission on accreditation for law enforcement agencies. it's a model where your policies and procedures have been tested through the trying times.
So you're not reinventing the wheel.
You're not
using
reinventing.
a plan that's already in place, that's nationally recognized.
That's right.
So, all you got to do is adapt to that.
That's correct. And it's checks and balances. It ain't no standards by my own admission. Right now, we in the self-assessment in the Embassy Police Department, where we self-assess ourselves and make sure that our policies is in adherence with what we're doing. Then you have outside entities. Jake Sullivan may be with Hampton Police Department, they're already accredited. They come to the Embassy Police Department and see if Joe Smokatelli just got hired last week. Was he sworn in? Did he get sworn in? That's simple, but that's part of the accreditation process. Did he do he have his uniform he's supposed to have on his duty belt? Do he have all his equipment in his car where it's supposed to be? Do we have a policy on speeding? And what steps do you take if this officer is caught speeding and is found guilty?
Right.
You got steps and process of doing things, and it works. It's unbeatable. When you go to get grants and stuff like that, they look at it and see if you're accredited, and it puts you at another little bump up when you are accredited. So it's awesome.
So do you know what the current procedures are for our schools, securing our schools?
I don't.
Tell me, do you have a plan? And if so, just give us some of the elements of your plan.
I do have a plan. I worked with Mr. Coker down at Fennell, and he kind of had me involved. I think it was right at Sandy Hook, and asked me some ideas of what he can do to secure Fennell, and he put them in place. First thing is buzzing somebody in the front door. Make sure the gates are locked after 8 o'clock, after everybody's in. Lock the gates down so no intruder can't come in on the back side or the front side. Having a camera at every entrance to the school, and having the secretary or whoever it is buzz them in so somebody can't just come in the back door and take over our school and have hostages. So those are things we can do. And I'm gonna say this here. How many times, and I hate to even compare the two, but how many times have we heard of mass shootings at a state prison or a prison facility? Why? You can't get up in there. It's locked down, it's controlled by doors, and you just can't just perpetrate the facility. And we gotta have the same mindset with our kids. Our kids are a lot more precious than prisoners.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I hate to say that we put all this money into prison systems and make sure that the prisons are locked down, we keep those folks in there. But we need to make sure our kids, our most precious jewels, are protected when they go in there to learn.
One of the things that I've seen over time is there's always a disconnect with notifying parents, and I think that's a huge thing you're seeing right now is parents being totally in the dark. And I think with our lockdown system now, a lot of times things don't even get announced that it happened. What would be your policy on notifying the parents of a situation if there is even a controlled situation there nothing major happens, but letting them know it did happen? What are your thoughts on notifying parents? When should they be notified, and that kind of thing?
I've never heard of Hampton County having it, but as the sheriff, we will have a reverse 911 system where, right across the tracks in the embassy, we deal with Beaufort County. If I got something going on in the Embassy Heights, I can call that Beaufort County dispatcher and tell her geolocation. I want you to do a reverse 911 to this area. So everybody in that area can get a call from Beaufort County Dispatch saying there's an incident in the area, stay on lockdown, this, that, whatever, other. And I think we should bring that to Hampton County, a reverse 911 system. call everybody, let everybody know what's going on. Keep them informed.
Right.
Because the public always want to know, hey, what's going on? Especially when you got a child in school and you hear about a lot of police officers at the schoolhouse, you want to know.
Right.
You know, so.
All right, so let's think about this. You've been in the military. I've been in the military. We've both been in law enforcement 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the average police officer working on the streets today has the training they need to do an entry into a classroom with a barricaded suspect?
Absolutely not.
Who has that training in the law enforcement segment?
SLED does.
So there's a breakdown in training also, wouldn't you say, when you're in those types of situations?
Absolutely.
Would you be implementing some additional training for those types of situations?
Absolutely.
All right, so I made a post about veterans being placed at the front door of every school. Just from my research, I've done a lot of training in active shooters and with entry teams and things like that, and my training in the military. And we both know that the military is trained totally different for the most part than law enforcement.
That's right.
So what do you think of the idea of having one entry point into a school and having an armed U.S. veteran standing just at that post to support the SROs?
I would love it. We got to think outside the box because what's going on now is not working. So I would love to entertain that idea.
Okay. Anything else that you can think of that we could put into place to secure our schools?
It's kind of like I told you with the pop lock system, door systems. Even if that veteran was supposed to come that day and got sick or something, if we had those mechanisms in place, they would still work. If you had it in place with, and I use the example of if you had like a guard shack or something, a gate, it locks, the gate locks, nobody can come in the gate until that person have gone to the school, so you don't have nobody just come right up behind them, get into the school. We got to do something to secure the schools. And one thing we need to be cognizant of, we are in the process of building a school in Hampton County. Hampton County, this new school should be a model for the state of South Carolina, how we can secure our schools and keep our kids safe. I don't care if we got to put a 20-foot fence up around it to keep our kids safe. What is our kids worth to us? So we need to be thinking right now, and if the sheriff that's sitting there right now is not in the plans of securing this new school, the school system, the school district is wrong, because they should have some kind of law enforcement entity involved with planning of securing our school so it can be a model for the state of South Carolina.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Well, at this time, I'm going to give you a couple minutes to address the citizens of Hampton County. Let them know anything you want to.
Yes, citizens of Hampton County, let's not be bamboozled any longer. We have went way too long with high drug rates, with unsolved homicides, with over budgeting with our sheriff department. It is time now, and the time is now to make a change. Let's not vote for the same. Let's vote for a change. Let's vote Greg Alexander June 14th to make a difference in our county, in a county we can be proud of. If you want to know what a man can do, look what he has done. God bless you, Hampton County. I love you. Pray for me.
Thank you for coming.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you so much.